What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So the Politics Live show today was discussing Trump's tweets about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a post-Brexit trade deal with the US, throwing the usual Brexit chaos narrative and Boris smears that we have come to expect as a daily occurrence on the Politics Live show. So on the panel today they had the Brexit Party MEP Lucy Harris, the Tory MP Nadhim Zahawi, Lib Dem leader Vince Cable, Labour candidate Faiza Shaheen, and Daily Telegraph correspondent Chris Hope. So it's another impartial panel by the BBC. What a surprise. Let's check it out.
Talk about her successor in relation to Donald Trump. It's either going to be, of course, Jeremy Hunt or Boris Johnson. Let's just show you this tweet from the US president here. So interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it is done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements.
So as you heard in Trump's tweet there, he is not fucking about. Even adding on Nancy Pelosi will sort out free travel for them. Wow, AOC, you must have really pissed him off. But of course, the UK media are going to shit the bed over this. Like it's any of our fucking business anyway. Trump derangement syndrome is debilitating to these BBC spunk trumpets and their shitweasel editors. They call it racist. I would call it nationalist, since he said go back to the country, it was nothing about her race. That's as weak as calling someone who does not like Islam a racist. You cannot be racist to a religion or a nationality, for fuck's sake. There's a big clue in the word itself, you fucking moron. Racism needs to be directed at their race, not a country they was born in or their ancestral home. It's basic common sense. I'm sure AOC runs around screaming about her minority status anyway, relating to her Caribbean heritage on her mother's side, and how terrible the people of America are for wanting to protect their border and public services from illegal immigrants exploiting it. So, Trump has said leave if we are so terrible, no one is forcing you to stay. It's got fuck all to do with her race, as I've said. It's to do with the complete shit that comes out of her mouth in regards to the US citizens. I mean, in case the BBC haven't noticed, this is how Trump deals with these democratic lunatics. Most people wouldn't do it that way, but that's Trump for you. He is not exactly your run-of-the-mill president, is he? And that's what the US public wanted. Now let's hear the Tory MP Nadhim's take on this subject.
Nadhim, your response?
It's not language that I would use. I don't think it's language that any British politician would necessarily use. But this is a US domestic issue in terms of immigration. He's clearly frustrated that his opponents are trying to define this whole issue around the US controlling its borders as being somehow a moral judgment on him. So clearly he has fired out this tweet.
Is that all you're going to say?
Well,
that
no,
this,
it's
that
not.
This isn't language you wouldn't use. A lot of people just say it's racist. This is about race.
It's inappropriate language. I wouldn't use it.
Inappropriate?
Of course it is.
Yeah, inappropriate may be, but is that as far as you're going to go? Will you condemn it?
I just said to you, it's not language I would use. I think it's... Look, the more we get involved in other countries' domestic politics, the more people will feel that they can do the same here. I think, actually, the right thing to do is to say... As I just said, this is not language I would use, but this is a domestic US issue. They're dealing with a very clearly a big issue for them to deal with. The president is clearly frustrated by being somehow labelled as immoral by keeping
Is it racist?
US borders
is it racist?
tight and under control. It's inappropriate, and I wouldn't use that language.
So Nadhim seems completely disinterested in what Trump said. As, while he would not say it himself, I think he understands the context in which Donald Trump is saying it, given the vast issues around the immigration situation in America and the Democrats' constant attempts to make out that Trump is hurting babies and children and the usual nonsense that we hear. Maybe Nadhim is taking into consideration that Trump's political opponents attack him and the citizens who voted him in, knowing that his policy was to secure the US border. Joe the commie cumbucket wastes no time at all in calling him racist though, which I'm sorry Joe, I've already said it. He did not mention her race, he mentioned the country. So it's not racist, is it, you disingenuous fuckpig? He made no mention of her skin colour whatsoever. She tries to push Nadhim about condemning it, which he had already done by saying he would not use that language, but he won't call it racist, as she does, because he knows the difference between racism and nationalism. Trump has told her to fuck off because she hates the American people, not because of her race. Nadhim is smart enough to know that. He rightly points out the left all complained when Trump commented on UK issues, but the media are so quick to comment on anything Trump says, which is the exact same thing. The BBC and left-wing parties are too fucking stupid to see that, though. They lack the thing we call basic common sense. Let's continue.
Well, I would. I mean, it's blatantly so. I mean, you know, people do sometimes overuse the word racist, but I think in this particular case, it's blindingly obvious. I mean, if we tried to win an argument against our Home Secretary by saying go back to Pakistan, or ask Nadhim, you know, if we lost our temper with you and say go back to Iraq, you would find that not just offensive, but blatantly racist and directed at your origins. And I think it's quite unforgivable, and it tells us an awful lot about the American president and his motivation.
Well, it tells us a lot about the Conservatives as well, that they're willing to not even, you know, to defend it, to not even call it racism,
I haven't defended it.
Well,
Faiza,
we're not even calling it racism. Can we call it what it is? Can we call it what it is? And so we've already started this show. My blood is already boiling because we can't see what Jacob Rees-Mogg has said as deeply offensive and ignorant of this country and this country's history. And here you are saying inappropriate language when it is clear racism. This should not be acceptable.
Right, well, yes, the Prime Minister has condemned, these remarks by Donald Trump.
Stronger terms than Nadhim. I mean, you know, as Nadhim's right, it is a US domestic row about issues there, but it does look appalling remarks over here.
Well, and you won't condemn it in so many terms.
It's inappropriate. I'm saying to you, but look, Joe, if we continue to interject in US domestic
But you did over the travel ban, didn't you, when it came to Donald Trump?
It was personally concerned because I had two sons studying in America, and no, it's not. Faiza, just you have to listen to the answer before you actually comment, right? I had two sons studying in America, and the ban would have meant people who were born outside of the United Kingdom who were British, naturalised, as myself and my family, would have not been able to travel to the United States. Actually, interestingly enough, Boris was Foreign Secretary and he intervened on behalf of this country and got the change within 24 hours, which is pretty remarkable. He doesn't get much credit for this, but he did actually make the White House realise they had to change their mind.
But you made an intervention then, didn't you? And you were prepared then to put your reputation to some extent on the line to interview. So why not with this?
Because I just said to you that this is inappropriate. It's not language that I would use. I'm condemning it, but also reminding us that this is domestic US policy.
Will you write to Donald Trump in this particular case?
Because it's domestic policy, right? Ultimately, if we do this, then we give the right to Donald Trump to intervene in our politics anytime he feels like.
Well, he does.
And that's not where we want to be. This is our greatest ally. The United States of America is the United Kingdom's greatest ally, right? The President of the United States has to be someone that this country, this Prime Minister, has to work with. And if we're going to start behaving in this way, where we attack them publicly all the time, right, then they have every right to do the same back to us.
All right, well, let me let somebody else.
So we hear from the Labour and Lib Dem fuckpigs who immediately attempt to claim Nadhim defended Trump when he clearly didn't. Nadhim then calls out these Labour and Lib Dem idiots for polarising this issue over here when it's none of our business. Once again, though, Nadhim is forced to repeat himself before Jo Coburn asks if he will write a letter to Donald Trump complaining about his tweet. Like, what the fuck, Joe? Why would a UK politician think it's a good idea to write a letter to a US president telling him how he should speak to people on Twitter? Is this dopey bimp for real? Jo herself complained when Trump spoke about Theresa May and the UK ambassador to the US, claiming he was interfering in the UK politics and the Tory party leadership contest, but now thinks it's okay for us to do the same in their affairs. Trump derangement syndrome must cause massive sudden memory loss as a side effect because she constantly contradicts her fucking self. What a dozy bitch. Now let's look at the next clip.
In Faiza.
Look, this is coming from a Conservative Party and Theresa May has condemned it, but she herself, of course, was Home Secretary when they put out bans telling people to go home. She created the hostile environment policy, which meant that the Windrush generation were deported from this country. You know, it's mad now that she's like celebrating the cricket team when there's someone from Barbados there, when actually the generation, she would have deported them. I mean, the absolute hypocrisy of this and the inability to call racism what it is just... maybe it's a sign of the times, but it's flabbergasting.
Theresa May would have not deported them. You just made that up completely.
Of course she did. She had hostile environment. What, I made up Windrush?
The hostile environment came under...
Don't talk over each other, though.
The hostile environment came under a Labour
you're right.
government.
I've just made up that people got deported, that came here as a Windrush generation, that black British people got deported, that happened because of a policy that Theresa May put in place.
Lucy, listening to this, though, is that condemnation, as far as you're concerned, strong enough from Nadhim Zahawi?
I mean, I think the situation is always going to be incredibly difficult when they're your closest allies and closest friends. I think Donald Trump has always been a bit of a person for words, which haven't been chosen very carefully. But we always have to remember it's never black and white. It's not either you are, you deal with this person and you dislike what he says and you don't deal with it, or you deal with it and you do like what he says. There is a bit of nuance here, and I think we have to remember that we do have to do work with these people.
Right, well, except we've got this from Nick Watt from Newsnight, Downing Street. Theresa May's view is the language used to refer to these congresswomen by Donald Trump was completely unacceptable. And in fact, there's been a response to that tweet by Nick Watt from Ruth Davidson, who says she's right, Theresa May, and both men vying to be her successor should say so. Should they come out clearly and condemn it?
I'm sure they will. I have no doubt that all I would say to you, again, and I repeat, we have a leadership election at the moment in our country. You know, there are many domestic issues. Boris today talking about incentivising businesses to support their staff when it comes to mental well-being. What I don't want to see is our politics constantly playing this ping-pong with the United States just because we share the same language.
Trump wants this debate. He wants the BBC to be writing about it 2,000 miles away because he wants to have he likes stirring it up, kicking the can. I mean, the comments are outrageous, but, he's talking to a domestic audience that we don't fully understand here. They are outrageous comments, and he wants this response over here, and he's getting it.
But Nadhim's defence is that he doesn't want Trump involving himself in British politics, but he already does. I mean, he's openly intervened in the Tory leadership contest. He's been extremely disrespectful of the Prime Minister. He tried to choose the next Lord Mayor of London. I mean, he openly meddles in our affairs. And it's perfectly reasonable that any self-respecting country should be willing to answer back.
You say this, and yet you are an advocate of the EU who's meddling in our affairs continuously throughout the trade negotiations, throughout the negotiations of exiting the EU. How can you say one thing but then say another? It's just completely hypocritical.
We're not talking about the European Union insulting our leading politicians.
Well, they have done so with
when you're in a
May.
negotiating situation with the European Union,
have done
it's a totally, utterly different situation. Utterly.
It's not different. It's exactly the same.
OK, so we hear the Labour trout talk complete shit about the Windrush scandal and how Theresa May deported people. Where the fuck did she get that from? Theresa May might have fucked a lot of things up, but she did not deport people. Nadhim rightly shuts her bullshit down, though, and points out the hostile environment policy she's been talking about started under Labour. She clearly did zero research before coming on here. All she did was see a few things about the Windrush scandal, decided to use that and make out like Theresa May had deported people, as CNN used that in America against Trump. This is Labour all over. Who cares about facts? Anything is fair games when it comes to attacks on people they don't like. Just say whatever you want and hope the sheep will watch it at home will buy it without checking it out. The Brexit Party MEP Lucy kind of sits on the fence about it because we have to trade with the US and likely thinks sitting there talking about it is not going to help that, which is probably right. The soy boy journalists think Trump wants the BBC talking about it when I'm sure Trump does not give a fuck about what the spunk trumpets and soy boys at the BBC have to say about anything. I'm sure he knows, like we all do, they are the same fake news as CNN. We finish up with Vince Cable throwing out the Ramona's usual bullshit claim that Trump interfered in the Tory leadership campaign. I would love to see some actual evidence of how he did that and what actual benefit it gained to anyone who he was apparently trying to help. But you got absolutely fuck all, have you, Vince? You just talk shit as usual. Evidence is a swear word to you, so we shouldn't expect that. Lucy rightly points out that Vince is a big fan of the EU, who constantly meddles in the UK's affairs regarding Brexit. So well done, Lucy. Call out this worthless shitweasel's blatant hypocrisy when he sits there supporting the EU superstate who constantly, literally every day, meddle in UK affairs. Let's continue, though. We're on to the last clip now.
Well, I think, Vince, I wasn't going to make that point, but if you remember, Mr. Tusk saying that Brexiteers have a special place in hell, that's not exactly complimentary. And of course, Donald Trump, actually, when he was here, he was very measured. Both Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson would make great prime ministers. Actually, I thought he was very measured when he came to his comments about our election. They're the two finalists. That's what we've got. I think look, we have to just step back and think this is our greatest ally. Our security.
And this is the man, according to the Times, if we look at the front page, Chris, Boris Johnson seeking Trump deal in first move as Prime Minister. This is the man that Boris Johnson certainly wants to do business with.
The thinking behind this, and is first raised by Ian Duncan Smith in a Telegraph column about 10 days ago, the thinking behind this is that Johnson has a connection with Trump. He flies out there in the first week of, if he becomes Prime Minister, of course. And then he can do a deal on low-hanging fruit, on easy stuff, not on farming goods, not on maybe on service areas they can't deal, but basic manufacturing goods maybe, and that will show the EU that a deal can be done, and and sort of lever off a deal with the EU. That's the thinking behind it. I mean, it's been pushed by people around Boris Johnson, but we've been told he's pushing back against it himself.
Right, is that the plan?
Well, look, first of all, Boris is going to unite the country. He's going to deliver Brexit by the 31st of October.
But is that his plan?
Well, I'm telling you what his plan is. He's going to unite the country, deliver Brexit by the 31st of October, defeat Jeremy Corbyn, and then make sure we deliver as many trade deals. There's a whole list of countries.
So there is going to be a general election. He's going to defeat Jeremy Corbyn in a general election?
After delivering Brexit, when he goes to a general election, he will certainly defeat Jeremy Corbyn. With my hypothesis, my analysis of the situation, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn's numbers are where the Labour Party wants to be. In fact, we might get to this at some point, but look at what happened with Tom Watson over the weekend and the whole issue of anti-Semitism. The Labour Party is not in a good place, but Boris's priorities is to make sure that he unites the country, make sure he delivers Brexit by the 31st of October, and then defeat Jeremy Corbyn.
Right. Is that part of his plan, though? First hurdle, jump across to the United States and do it.
There is a long list of countries, India, America, lots of other countries around the world have already indicated, Japan, that they want to do a trade deal with the United Kingdom. That's a good thing for us, and Boris will deliver that.
Because one of the problems, as Vince Cable raises, is that Boris Johnson has, in many people's minds, already acquiesced to the United States over the whole issue of Sir Kim Darroch, who resigned.
Absolutely. But let's just pursue briefly this point about the trade agreement, which is supposed to be so substantial. Dr. Fox, who is a great evangelist for this agreement, was deflating expectation this morning. I would make it clear there are large numbers of areas that they cannot negotiate about, that most of the barriers in the United States are not at federal level, they're at state level, that any agreement would have to be ratified by a hostile Congress. I mean, he's effectively making the point that Boris Johnson might come up with some little gimmick, some piece of paper, but has absolutely no substance in terms of our future trading relationship. We need to get real here.
So, Nadhim reinforced what Lucy previously pointed out regarding the EU's meddling in the UK affairs. When Donald Soyboy Tusk is going around saying Brexiteers have a special place in hell, what do you call that then, BBC? Why have you not said nothing about that? She also points out that Donald Trump endorsed both leadership candidates, so that's not meddling, that's just called being impartial. And as for him calling out Sadiq Khan and Theresa the EU appeaser, they are just facts. They're both incompetent and deserve to be shit on by the God Emperor Trump. The talk then moves on to Boris Johnson seeking a trade deal with the US to improve his negotiating position after the 31st of October with the EU. Which Nadhim rightly points out, there is a long list of countries waiting to trade with us, not only the US. This is something the Ramonas won't be happy hearing about, especially not on the BBC, as it destroys their Project Fear nonsense about the UK economy that they love to get the BBC to promote. Well, I'm sure you'll all agree that was fucking painful to watch. It's yet another anti-Brexit, anti-Boris, anti-Trump panel with a massive bias towards Remain, as we've all come to expect, and Christine pointed out on the LBC show yesterday. The fact the BBC focuses on what Trump says to a jumped-up commie cumbucket like AOC when this country is trying to deal with the Brexit mess we are currently in goes to show how out of touch the BBC really are. The Biased Broadcasting Corporation are happy to promote any voice that is anti-Trump or anti-Brexit on their heavily biased panels. Jo Coburn cannot help but label the president a racist, even when the Tory MP condemns the words of Trump, still doesn't call him racist. Her and the other TDS sufferers ignore his condemnations and continue to claim he supports Trump's tweets, a usual Monday politics live show tactic. What a surprise. So I'm going to end the video there. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share the video as it helps the channel a lot, and I will see you all in the next one.